Hello, everyone. Welcome to the adventure about weather basics. And make sure if you have questions, share those with us in the Q&A and we'll get them to Andy. And Andy is from the National Weather. I just messed that title up. I'm so sorry, Andy. Go ahead and
Okay.
introduce yourselves and where you're from. I got a message and my brain went aside, but I'm going to hand it over to Andy and he's going to tell us all about weather basics.
All right. Well, hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is fantastic. My name's Andy Kleinsasser. I work with the National Weather Service here in Wichita, just down by the airport, just west of the airport. If you've ever been down South Tyler Road across from Texas-Consolver Golf Course, or kind of by Pawnee Prairie Park, you'll see that big soccer ball in the sky. Kind of looks like a big soccer ball, big golf ball. That is our radar. That radar helps us detect thunderstorms and rain and snow and things like that to help keep you all safe. But yeah, that's our radar, and our office is right there. So that's what I work. I'm a meteorologist, and I've been doing this for like 22, 23 years, ever since I got out of college. I love meteorology. I've been doing this, oh gosh, long time. And I've been interested in weather ever since I was like second, third, or fourth grade. I don't remember exactly when, but when I was in second, third, or fourth grade, there was a huge thunderstorm that came through my hometown in Mankato in southern Minnesota, had like 80-mile-an-hour winds, big hail, and it just demolished everything. And it just amazed me how something from the sky could create that kind of power and that kind of destruction. I want to learn more about it. So that's kind of where my interest in weather grew. So we're going to do a whole bunch of fun stuff today. I don't think we're going to have enough time for everything, but I brought a bunch of weather experiments. We're going to talk about other fun things. I don't want to spoil it, but we'll talk about some other fun things weather-wise too. So why don't we get started? I guess to start out, what is Kansas known for? Think about Kansas, we think about maybe sunflowers. Think about lack of mountains. It's pretty flat, right? Got the Flint Hills and a few other hills around. What else is Kansas known for? Maybe thunderstorms. We get a lot of thunderstorms here in Kansas, don't we? Kind of when we talk about our typical, high frequency thunderstorm time of the year. When do thunderstorms happen the most? Typically anytime about April, May through the summer. And then once we get into September, October, things start to quiet down a little bit. So we're starting to get into the quiet time of the year in the fall. So Kansas is known for sunflowers, large, wide open spaces, not a lot of mountains, thunderstorms. What sometimes comes from a thunderstorm? We can sometimes get severe weather in the form of large hail, damaging strong straight line winds, and tornadoes. And tornadoes is what we're going to talk about for a good portion of the time today. Did you know that Kansas ranks number one when it comes to total number of tornadoes per square mile across the state? Out of all the 50 states in this great nation, Kansas ranks number one in the total number of tornadoes that happens on average each year. So we have to be more ready than most, don't we? When we think about like places like California. California doesn't get a lot of thunderstorms or tornadoes. But what do they get a lot of? They get a lot of earthquakes, don't they? And they have to worry about tsunamis, those big waves that come from the ocean. So they have drills when it comes to earthquakes and tsunamis. What do we do if an earthquake happens? What do we do if a tsunami happens? Same thing here in Kansas. We don't get a lot of earthquakes, do we? Just little guys that don't do a whole lot of damage, but we get a lot of tornadoes. So we have tornado drills. We practice for those things. All right, so we've got our handy dandy little tornado in a box here, and I'm going to turn this on. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a tornado, a very, very small tornado. We're going to make one nonetheless. There it is. There's our tornado. That's what Kansas gets more than any other state. Kansas gets more of than any other state in this country. Tornadoes. And there's lots of ingredients that require a tornado to form. Tornadoes aren't just going to form willy-nilly out of a clear blue sky. We have lots of ingredients. The first thing we need for a tornado to form, we need a thunderstorm. Tornado's not going to form usually without a big thunderstorm. And we need that whole thunderstorm to be rotating, almost like a small or just a slow moving tornado. That whole entire thunderstorm is rotating. Talk about a thunderstorm, those big cumulonimbus clouds that reach way, way up, 10, 15 miles up into the sky, almost into the stratosphere. That whole thunderstorm needs to be rotating. So we've got a thunderstorm. We've got that whole thunderstorm is rotating. That thunderstorm rotates because we have strong winds in the atmosphere blowing in different directions. Maybe at the ground level, we'll have strong winds coming out of the south from the Gulf of Mexico, pumping all that warm, moist Gulf of Mexico air up into Kansas. Maybe we go up 2 or 3 miles up, then the winds are blowing from the west at like maybe 60 or 70 miles an hour. Now they're blowing pretty fast. We go even higher up, maybe 10 miles up, they're blowing out of the northwest. So that wind is increasing and turning with height, and that increasing and turning with height of those winds causes that whole thunderstorm to rotate. And if other ingredients come together, we can get our tornado. Now, tornadoes are really, really finicky. You have lots of ingredients that need to come together. Let's think about mom or grandma or our aunt's chocolate chip cookies. Think of someone who makes really, really good cookies, or maybe it's a good meal or something like that. I know my grandma made amazing chocolate chip cookies, and she has all those ingredients you need to put together. Your sugar, your flour, your vanilla, your eggs, probably a whole bunch of other ingredients. Now you take one of those ingredients away. Let's say you take the eggs away, or the sugar away, or the chocolate chips away. Are they going to taste like chocolate chip cookies? No, they're not going to be as good. Same thing with tornadoes. You have all these ingredients that need to come together just right. And let's say we're going to take an ingredient away. Let's take the spin away. We need a lot of spin to create a tornado. We're going to make the spin less. We're going to turn our fan down. And as we turn that fan down, what happens to our tornado? What happened to it? It completely went away because we took away that key ingredient in the atmosphere, the strong spin. And those strong winds in the atmosphere create that spin in that thunderstorm. We took away an ingredient, the tornado went away. Let's add that ingredient back in. And the tornado forms just like that, because we brought back that strong spin back in the atmosphere to create a tornado. Some other ingredients that a tornado needs, it needs really kind of warm, hot, humid air. Typically, when you think about a tornado kind of day, it is hot and muggy outside. It's usually in May, April, May, or maybe early June. That's kind of our peak time, April, May, and early June. That's when the atmosphere conditions are ripe for thunderstorms that have the potential to produce tornadoes. Now, fortunately, very few thunderstorms produce tornadoes. You don't need to worry. Let's say we got a thunderstorm off in the distance. We don't need to worry that thunderstorm is going to produce a tornado, because very, very, very few of them actually do produce tornadoes. Very few of them. But that doesn't mean thunderstorms aren't dangerous, because what makes all thunderstorms dangerous? That is lightning. Lightning can strike up to 30 miles away from the thunderstorm. So we like to say, when thunder roars, go indoors. If you see lightning, get inside. That's the best thing to do, because a bolt of lightning, a single bolt of lightning, is up to 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is, what is that? That's like 5 or 10 times hotter than the surface of the sun. So you don't want to get hit by a bolt of lightning. Absolutely. Let's see here. What else we got going on the list of things to do? All right, so we've got our tornado. Let's say a tornado let's say conditions are right for tornadoes. It's one of those days where the weatherman on the weather people at the National Weather Service, also on TV, are saying, hey, there's a chance for tornadoes today. We got to keep our eye to the sky. I want to ask everybody, what do we think there's a difference between a watch and a warning? What is the difference between a tornado watch and a tornado warning? Because that is something that actually comes out of our office, the National Weather Service. A tornado watch is when we think conditions are favorable within the next 2, 3, or 4 hours. We think conditions are favorable for thunderstorms to produce tornadoes within the next 2 or 3 or 4 hours. So a tornado watch means, hey, let's a tornado hasn't been sighted yet, but let's go ahead and keep our phone by us. Let's have multiple ways to receive information when a tornado warning is issued. So that brings me to what a tornado warning is issued. That means a tornado either has been sighted by spotters on the ground. They actually see the tornado, or we can see the tornado on radar. We can actually see the spin on our radar, the spin of a tornado at our work. And so if we see that, we will issue a tornado warning. And that means a tornado is highly likely or imminent. It's going to happen sometime within the next 10 to 30 minutes. And so that is when it's time to take shelter. Let's take a look here. All right, so what are some different ways we can be alerted of tornado warnings? Well, let's see here. We have got our phone, first and foremost. There are these things called wireless emergency alerts. So, when you get those really high-pitched, kind of scary tones from your phone, when a Amber Alert has been issued for a child abduction, things like that. That's called a wireless emergency alert. It blows up your phone. It's loud. It's obnoxious. It's meant to wake you up in the middle of the night. That is what happens when we issue a tornado warning. It goes to your phone, and it makes those incredibly annoying sounds, wakes you up, and it prompts you to take action. What are some other ways to get alerted of tornado warnings? TV, right? You're watching TV, and you see that scroll on the bottom of the screen. Or Jay Prater, or Lisa Teachman, or what's the Channel 12? Ross Jansen. They break in, they say, hey, a tornado has been sighted, or the National Weather Service has seen tornado on radar heading into Wichita. It's time to take action, time to go to your safe place. You can also use your ears, listen for the outdoor warning sirens. But just remember, those outdoor warning sirens are only meant to be heard outside. Sometimes, especially if you're like me, you have a fan or some kind of sound machine at night, because tornadoes can happen at night, and you're asleep, you may not hear that outdoor warning siren. So that's why it's important to have another mode to wake you up, another mode to warn you of that tornado warning. Let's take a look here. All right. So we found different ways to be alerted. You might even be alerted by social media, Facebook, Twitter, things like that from friends and family. Okay, so we've been alerted. There's been a tornado warning issued by the National Weather Service. Tornado's been sighted. It's heading into Wichita. What do we do? What are some tornado shelter options? Well, best place is going to be your basement. You want to get underground if you can. If you don't have a basement, if you don't have a cellar, the next best thing is a small interior room in the middle of your house, like a closet, a bathroom. It's important that it's in the middle of your house. It's important that it's small and no windows. Don't pick a room with windows, because what happens when you get strong winds that hit windows? The windows break, and then all those shards of glass are flying around. And if you've ever had a little cut from a piece of glass, that is no fun. Not good at all. So you want to have a small room, middle of the house with windows, but your best place is that basement. You know, a lot of times we like to tell people, have you ever thought of maybe, let's say you're in the basement bathroom, you have the door closed. Have you ever thought of maybe hugging the toilet? And people always, turn their nose up. I'm not going to hug the toilet. Well, you don't want to put the toilet seat down. You want to flush it. But you think about it. That toilet is connected to the floor. It's bolted down to the floor. It's also connected to pipes. And so it's bolted down, it's connected to pipes. Hang on to that toilet, wrap your arms and your legs around it and hang on. Now, the chances of a tornado hitting Wichita are very low. I mean, there is a chance, but it's very low a tornado will hit Wichita, the chances. Because tornadoes are usually pretty small. They don't happen that terribly often. And it's even less of a chance for your home to be struck by a tornado. But if it does strike your house and you're down in your tornado shelter, let's say it damages your house, what are some things you want to have in your tornado shelter? I'm going to pull this over here. What are some things we want to have in a tornado shelter? Let's think about it. So, we're down in the basement or in our small little interior room, and the tornado's just passed, our house is damaged, and this just happened at Andover a few years ago. What are some things we want to have in our tornado shelter? Well, our refrigerator might be gone, and all our food might have gotten blown out of our kitchen. So we'll want some food and some drink. I got a Gatorade and a little bit of a granola bar here, a Z bar. So something that, like bottled water or canned food, something that's non-perishable. So you don't want bananas down there. Heaven forbid, hopefully not, but someone might have gotten injured by flying debris. Want to have a little bit of a kind of a safety medic kit with some bandages, some gauze, some antiseptic solution to put on your wounds, things like that. Let's see here. What else? Maybe some gloves, some work gloves to have down in your tornado shelter. And these are things you want to put down in your tornado shelter before tornado season starts. Maybe February or March, stick all these items in your tornado shelter. Have it ready for tornado season. Have some gloves. Let's say there's pieces of wood laying down and you have to kind of move them out of the way. Pieces of wood with nails. You don't want to get splinters in your hands or goober up your hands too bad. So have some nice gloves. Let's see. Oftentimes after a tornado hits, it's in the evening. It's maybe a little chilly. It's raining. Maybe you have a raincoat or a coat or just a sweater or something to keep you warm. I did forget an umbrella. Maybe you have an umbrella for a big umbrella for everyone in the family. All right, so a coat. Let's see. So after a tornado hits a community, oftentimes there's not power. All the power lines are down. Flashlight. Make sure there's fresh batteries in it so you can see. Flashlight. Maybe a radio. Battery-powered radio, because maybe the cell towers got impacted. Cell phones won't work. Internet might not work. So have a battery-powered radio. You can tune into AM or FM and hear just some latest information on what to do after the tornado, how to stay safe. Let's see, we're getting close here. One of the main injuries after a tornado hits a community are, believe it or not, foot injuries. Because when do tornadoes usually happen? Kind of in the late afternoon, evening, or even at night. A lot of times when we get home in the evening, we kick our shoes off, don't we? And then that tornado warning is issued. We quickly go down into our safe place in the basement or that small interior room. And we realize, oh man, I don't have anything on my feet. I'm barefoot. So it's a good thing to have slippers, sandals, pair of shoes, extra pair of shoes, something for everyone in the family down in your tornado shelter. And last but not least, and I'm probably missing a few things, but last but not least here, let's say you're in your tornado shelter and you're trapped. You can't open the door. You can't get out of your basement bathroom, whatever it may be. You're trapped in there. how long do you think you could yell for help? Maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe everyone in your family takes turns. Everyone eventually loses their voice after an hour. Safety responders won't be able to find you, but have something like a whistle. Oop, that was probably too loud for you. Sorry about that. A whistle, a blowhorn, something. You could blow this all day and all night. It's annoying. It's loud. Safety responders will be able to find you then. That I think is it, folks. I think I'll kind of have a little time here for questions. If there are any questions about tornadoes, if anyone else thought of other items you want to have in your tornado shelter.
Hi, Andy. One of the questions is they hear about the different strengths in tornadoes. And could you just you talked about all the factors that are needed. What are the factors in ranking the tornadoes and what is that scale? And maybe even how they measure that.
Absolutely, yeah. So the scale that they use to rate tornadoes, it's called the Enhanced Fujita Scale. It's named after a guy who's no longer living, Ted Fujita. He developed it way back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, somewhere back then. And it rates a tornado on the amount of damage it produces. And it's ranked from 0, we call it an EF scale, an enhanced Fujita scale. So an EF0 is a weak tornado. Weakest. EF5 is your biggest. That's your big one. The greatest threat to life and property. And it's ranked on how much damage it produces. So if a tornado doesn't hit anything, if it's out in the middle of an open field, hopefully it stays out there. But if it doesn't hit anything, we'll rank that an EF0 because it just was out in the middle of a grass field. If it goes through a community, it's much easier, or maybe a farmstead or a grove of trees, it's much easier to rate it because we can rate it on the amount of damage that it produces. So after a tornado hits a community, a farmstead somewhere, we'll send a team of people out to actually go to all these places that tornadoes hit, and we'll go ahead and rank those tornadoes that way.
So it's ranked afterwards.
It is ranked after. It's usually ranked 1 or 2 days after the tornado even happens. Yeah.
And like the hurricanes that we might have heard happened in the, we knew those rankings as they were coming in and they changed. We have some great questions coming in. One, I hit the wrong button, so that was on me. 2 questions. One, is a helmet something that would be helpful? And 2, if we're outside, what is the best way to do? They used to say go under an underpass when I was these kids' age, and now that's like a big no-no. So would a helmet be great to have in a package? And 2, if we're outside in a car or just outside and can't get to those shelter spots, what's the best thing for us to do?
Absolutely. So a helmet is a great idea. I forgot that. That's whoever said that is fantastic. Great. You want a helmet in it's not absolutely needed, but it's one of those things. It doesn't hurt to have a little hard hat or a helmet for everyone in your family. Because if a tornado does, heaven forbid, hit your home, things can fall. A lot of times a tornado just blows it away, but things can fall down on your head. So if you don't have a helmet, it's a good idea to maybe get a mattress, or maybe more realistically, a couple big, heavy, thick blankets and pull it over your family. Or if you don't have that, just cover your head with your arms. And when it comes to if you're outside and there's a tornado, the best thing to do is get in your car and, you guys can't drive yet. You will in a few years, but get in your car with whoever you're with and drive away from it. If it's coming toward you, try to drive in the other direction. That's the best thing to do. We like to tell people not to get under overpasses because, well, for one, you're blocking traffic from getting through, and so people might not be able to get away from the tornado if a whole bunch of people get underneath that overpass. Plus, you're blocking the way for first responders, firefighters, EMS workers, and policemen. And thirdly, when you push air through a constricted space like an underpass, that wind is going to speed up dramatically. So instead of maybe 100-mile-an-hour winds around this tornado, now it's sped up to like 200-mile-an-hour winds because it's getting constricted underneath this overpass, and it can actually blow people away if they're underneath that overpass. So yeah.
Very good. A great question came. You told us to kind of get a kit ready. What if we haven't had time to get the kit ready? What would be, you think in your brain, the one or two things that you would absolutely want to grab when you couldn't grab them all, because it would be more important to get to safety versus getting all the things? But what would be one or two things that you would absolutely grab if you hadn't made your kit beforehand?
Sure. That's a great question. Probably try to get some water, because you don't know when the next time you'll be able to get a drink of water if a tornado hits a community. So at least get a quick drink of water, or try to grab a bottle of water. Let's see here. Probably put some shoes on, and yeah, I'd say shoes and water, if that's the absolutely only things you could do.
Another great question. Since we've been tracking tornadoes in Kansas, what was the year that we had the most? And then I'm going to kind of ask a separate question. Was there something happening that created the most that year? We sometimes hear about El Nino or El Niñas impact the weather here.
Sure.
So what year did we have the most? How many was that? And was there a why behind
Sure.
that reason?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the year that has the most is the year 2008. So what was that, 16 years ago? We had 187 tornadoes touch down across Kansas that year. That's a lot. I think on average, we have somewhere between 50 and 80 tornadoes per year. So, 187 tornadoes in one year, that's a big deal. I honestly don't know the reason why. Sometimes weather's very unpredictable, and sometimes you just get in a very conducive pattern. A pattern that's very conducive for thunderstorms that produces tornadoes. But you know what? I think La Nina, that's that weather pattern where you get cooler than normal ocean temperatures along the equator in the Pacific. So I think that was a La Nina year where there were cooler waters, and you can sometimes get some really big weather outbreaks in the spring during La Nina springs. That was a good question.
One year, somebody brought up the fact that there were, it was like a combination of a whole bunch of different weather things happening. So do we often see lightning and hail and thunderstorms and all those things when we also see tornadoes? Or if we see lightning, we're not going to see a tornado. Is there any certainty of the patterns that we see when it all comes together?
Sure, that's a good question. So the thunderstorms that produce the tornadoes, we call those thunderstorms supercells. And it's kind of a cheesy name, but they are super thunderstorms. They're basically the mother of all thunderstorms, because the updraft that feeds that thunderstorm, that warm, moist air that feeds the thunderstorms, the lifeblood of the storm, instead of that air going just straight up, it kind of rotates as it goes up. So that allows that whole supercell thunderstorm to rotate. And then out of those supercell thunderstorms, lots of bad things can happen. You can obviously get tons of lightning. You can get flash flooding, which is just a lot of heavy rain in a short time. Tornadoes, very, very large hail can come out of supercell thunderstorms. If anyone remembers, I guess, gosh, I'm dating myself. Back in 2010, September of 2010, we had hailstones this big at the weather office. They were like almost basketball or volleyball size. And those came from a supercell thunderstorm. So yeah, massive, massive hail falling from the sky that can hurt and kill people. And in addition to tornadoes, just straight line damaging winds.
Yeah, sometimes those winds are what we get when we think the straight line winds versus a true tornado. Those have undone us a lot. So a kind of a fun question. We don't really get shark tornadoes, right? We're not going to can tornadoes pick up
what
things.
Was it again? What was that question?
Sharknado, comes up during Shark Week. And so, but I guess a serious question behind that, do tornadoes pick things up? Obviously, they pick up barns and things like that. But if they were over water, does that get sucked up and taken when they're over large bodies of water? Or what is the capacity for a tornado to lift and move things? And obviously, we know Sharknadoes aren't really real. That's just a fun little movies. But what is the capacity for a tornado to move? Because we've seen what the capacity for water is with the recent hurricanes. What is the most powerful thing that they've moved that was kind of perhaps shocking?
Absolutely, yeah. The tornadoes, I'm sure it's moved heavier objects on this, but tornadoes can lift up, especially strong tornadoes. Like, remember we talked about the EF0s and the EF5s. Well, the EF4s and EF5s, those big ones, they can like pick up loaded down freight trains and just toss them like toothpicks. So they can pick up freight trains. I don't know how heavy those are. Those have got to be hundreds of tons of weight. They can just absolutely flatten trees, rip trees out of the ground and fling them around. I mean, it can do a lot of damage. When it comes to tornadoes over water, those are called water spouts. So when you hear the term water spout, that's just a tornado over water. Same thing as a tornado just over water. Yeah, especially if you have a strong tornado, like an EF3, EF4, EF5, they can suck fish. There has actually been, oh, I'm trying to remember where it was. I think it was in England somewhere. A tornado or a water spout was over the English Channel, and it sucked a bunch of fish up, and those fish stayed suspended up in the thunderstorm, way miles up. And as the thunderstorm moved over land, the fish were too heavy to stay up in the clouds, and the fish start to fall down to the ground. And it actually, all these fish littered the street in this southern town in the country of England across the Atlantic Ocean. So yeah, and I mean, sharknadoes aren't completely out of the realm of possibility, because they could, if sharks are close enough to the surface of the water and a water spout goes over them, it could suck up a shark, and a shark could fall from the sky. Now, it would be dead by the time it hit the ground, but you know, it could happen. Yeah.
It technically happened. Well, I think we could ask you questions for hours and not run out of them, but our time is up. Andy, we can't thank you enough for these weather basics and sharing information on how to keep safe, and just fascinating facts. Weather is such a fascinating subject, and thank you for sharing with us.
Well, you're welcome. You guys all have a good day. Thank you for having me.